Now you can look at him, he's got a reddish tone to him, kind of like that rabbit. There's a little bit of reddish in there. So when we put the color in there, if you look close enough, it's more of a deep, dark, true brown. It's not a blue brown, it's more of a reddish brown. There's all kinds of browns you can create, so that's the first thing we want to do is go down here and mix the proper color. You'll take the burnt sienna, which will be the dominant color, and a little touch of blue, which will just change it from such a reddish brown, even though that's the main thing, you just don't want it to be that red, okay? You're going to throw a little touch of purple in there if you'd like. Just be very careful with that. And it's pretty much a true chocolate color. Now, this is going to look really funny for a little bit, folks. As you know, that's the way it is. Okay, now I'm going to have this up here really handy. And I can usually just hold it with my finger. All right, now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to begin the process of underpainting this lion. Now, everything on this side over here is in shadow, as you can see, so we'll start there. And you sort of dry brush this on. Now, even though we're going to paint the whole thing kind of dark, I sort of outline different areas first. This is the area underneath his chin and his neck. Emphasize this shadow just a little more here on his body. Got a little rounded shape to it, which helps his body have that rounded look. The deep inset for his eye there. And what I do is I just sort of locate the shape of his head. Now this is going to drive somebody crazy because you haven't painted too many of these things before. And if you've not painted wildlife much, this is going to be a little tough for you. But you've got to learn sometime. So I look for all the real deep, dark pockets and kind of get those in there first. And as usual, you're going to, in some areas, like if you want it just to be a little bit where the lighter brown is, just add a little bit of white to it, just enough to keep it from being as dark, and we'll paint in the rest of the body. So it's just a little different value. Not much, but a little. But it's still dark. I want you to notice how careful I'm being not to make an outline. Okay, I'm just kind of dry brushing in here. We'll do the outside edge of his mane. And I pull from the inside out so that it creates a soft, sort of feathery edge there. This is going to be some of the challenge you'll have, is trying to get everything to do what it's designed to do. But you can do it. Then right up here there's a little tuft of hair. Now if you got good skill and you can pull from the outside in, go ahead. But if you don't, it's better and easier to go from the inside out. I can handle it from the outside in. Sometimes it feels better to me. So I'm kind of using sort of a circular motion, which is very similar to the look that he has there. Then it goes into more of a downward flow, just like a human's hair. Someone who's got long, flowing hair. And it turns out to be fairly solid. You're going to highlight this, of course, later. And the thing about this is, once you get your shape basically in here, the real secret is how you highlight. That's what makes or breaks this painting. It's not anything else. And as long as you have a decent form and you've got decent shadows already built in, the highlighting will just sort of is what creates his real image. So once you get the shading in here, what you do next is the part that's going to make or break your form. Now, like I said, if you choose to put another kind of animal up here, that's fine with me too. I don't really care. It just doesn't bother me. I'm just showing you the technique, and whatever works for you works for me. Okay, I'm just going to get all of his shape in here. Making sure that everything is well covered. Now, like I said, this area down in here where his leg folds back and kind of hidden down in here, that's where you can put a rock, or maybe it's stuck between a crack and a rock. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's why we don't finish the rock necessarily. This rock section right here, if I can get them to show this part, right here, see this little separation? You could go ahead and pull the highlight out up here and make this look like a big crack here, like his foot's kind of hanging down in there. So you got to remember that you've got to start learning to use all of the little things in your painting to help aid your composition, to help with your subject. Now this is his tail, and it kind of, even though it's a lighter color, you're going to start with shadow, just like all the rest of his body. And they have a kind of a skinny tail, and then on the end it has this little real wide knot, kind of like a frayed end of a rope. Okay, and I'm just going to dry brush it in like that. You don't have to really get too worried about it. Now you got to paint in his front legs. Now that's foreshortening. One of the more challenging things in life for an artist is to foreshorten something, like an arm or a leg or a finger or a foot or anything that's kind of facing you. But we have to do it. So we'll get in here and we'll go ahead and just kind of lay in the highlight, or the shadow color, the basic form of his body here. Almost got that. And sometimes you just have to play the game with some different rules by just disguising things and hiding things. And once again, we're only going to suggest these paws. We're not going to sit there and make them look like a photograph. That would just be a really waste of time. It just wouldn't be necessary. Now, when you get past all of the main body and you kind of got him blocked in there, and you're kind of thinking, gosh, man, how can I make anything out of that? Then you're going to go back with your other brushes, and that's when you start deciding his true form. What I'm doing now is just making sure my canvas is covered good. Okay, now we pretty much have him underpainted except for his face, and we're going to go ahead and take that, but we're going to switch to the number 4 bristle brush, or you can use your number 4 sable. Now I will switch to that one also later. Right now I'm going to go ahead and take the burnt sienna, add to this, add a little white to lighten it just a tad, and I'm going to go ahead and just sort of underpaint his forehead here with quick, clean strokes. Just get him underpainted nicely. They have this really interesting shaped mouth. All right, now kind of get him underpainted. Now, you look kind of silly right there, but that's the way it starts, okay? Now what you do is you go in and you block in all the real dark areas on the face, like the eyes, the nose, and that's where you want to switch to one of your smaller brushes, the round or the flat sable. I'm going to go to the round. Remember the color, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and a tinge of purple here for this to get that real deep, dark, almost black. All right, now I'm going to go up here. I'll probably have to lay my hand on the canvas here, but this area right here is really deep. That's the eye on the left side over here that's in shadow. I'm going to make sure that's in there. Now you make these eyes a little bigger than you want them to be when you're finished, because you're going to paint over the edges of them and they will sort of disappear. Now he's got this long slanted eye right here. Then the nose comes in right here. got sort of a diamond shape to it, and it kind of hooks back up in right there a little bit. Some of you are probably just not seeing this as good as you need to, just because it's on a tape. It's a little hard to see detail. That's why I try not to do too many detailed things on the shows, because they just don't show up as good as they do in person. But give it a shot. Mouth comes around like this. And kind of dry brush this in. Like I said, make all these areas just a slightly bigger than they're going to be when you're finished. There's even some areas up here, like where the ear is. Inside of his ear is kind of dark right there, and a little dark spot on the back side of his forehead right there. And there are some other darker areas that we'll probably have to add a little bit later. There, where his chin comes down there. That's a little darker right in that area. All right, there's the basic outline of his face. Now you can start, even though he's not a real great line yet, at least you can start seeing this is how wildlife artists develop. You start with a rough out edge line, dark shadows, and then you start building from there. Now there's actually